Mark Levin is our guest. The book is called The Liberty Amendments, Restoring the American Republic. You know, I first knew of you not as a talk show host, but as the author of Men in Black. And, you know, as a former student of the law, I was amazed by how well you laid out, I think, a very powerful case for the fact that the Supreme Court is governing us more than the president and Congress is. But when I look at your life and what you've done as a legal scholar and as the president of the Landmark Legal Foundation and your years with Reagan, and I look at your list of books, Ameritopia, Men in Black, Rescuing Sprite, which sort of outside this, but is an outlier to what I'm about to say, Liberty and Tyranny, which just went gangbusters, 38 weeks on the New York Times bestseller list, and 3 months at number one, so selling more than 1 million copies. And this, of course, will sell who knows how many. Did you ever think that, I mean, these are very highbrow conversations you're having. This is not, you know, of the I zing. This is not simple stuff. This isn't the stuff O'Reilly puts out. This is very intellectual stuff. Did you ever expect that you would have this broad an audience for this level of discussion?
No, Michael, I didn't, and that's why I am blessed, and that's why I try not to blow it. Let me put it to you that way. My radio show, yes, I'm very passionate. I like to have fun. I get annoyed at people, but through all of it, it's substantive, and same with what I write. When I sit down, obviously I'm not dealing with callers or liberals or whatever. I'm trying to make the substantive intellectual case for liberty and for ordered civil society. And I see it unraveling, as do you, as do most people, and I'm trying to figure out the best ways to explain it, to address it to the broadest possible audience that I possibly can. So for me, radio, writing, Landmark Legal Foundation, they're all part of the same effort, and you know, I'm just blessed to have such a smart audience and such a wonderful and loyal audience. And no, I never believed that I would have millions of people listening to me talk about the Constitution and so forth. But that's also why I take very seriously what I do and don't take it for granted. So
I'm not shocked you have millions of people. Mark Levin's our guest. The book is The Liberty Amendments. I'm not shocked you have millions of people who listen because, in addition to being very intellectually stimulating, there is no one smarter on radio, and by which I mean intellectually smarter, nor capable of laying out an argument better than you. I'm not surprised you have millions there because you do it in an entertaining and very comforting way. It's almost Garrison Keillor. You tell stories. I am shocked at how many people go and not only buy these books but read them because they're listeners who email me and quote from them, and they're not people with law degrees. They're not people who've studied the law. They're citizens who are engaged. I got to tell you, that's a pretty powerful compliment to you.
Well, it really is, and I really do. You know, when I do these book signings, I'll give you an example. Thousands of people show up last weekend in New York and then New Jersey, and I'm doing another one in Virginia. I try to treat everybody with respect because I know they are serious people. They're very interested in their country. They're very interested in knowing what's going on. And I was told a long time ago, if you respect your audience will respect you. And that's what I do every single day. And they're just great. The emails I get and the letters I get and people say things to me, I really have to wonder, are they talking about me? And they are. You know, you get the 1% nut jobs on the left who give you trouble and so forth, but they're so minor compared to the people who really care about this country. And, Michael, as you know, there are millions and millions of people in this country who are afraid for the future, who are frustrated about what's going on. And I am as well. And I'm trying to address what's concerning them because it's concerning me as well.
The Liberty Amendments. Mark Levin is our guest. Mark, you and I get the same 24 hours a day, and yet you do a nationally syndicated show. You're the president of the Landmark Legal Foundation. You're a family man. You have, other requirements, other obligations, and you still have time to churn out not a simple book, but a book that requires research. It requires sources and citations. When exactly do you sit down? Rush has said he'll never write another book because he doesn't have an iron butt. At what point in your day, I'm curious to know, at what point, is it when you first wake up? Is it before you go to bed? When do you actually write?
Well, what's interesting is I think about this stuff endlessly, and I have a notepad with me all the time, even in the car. I have it next to my bed, and when I sit down to write a book, I've thought through a lot of it, and I decide what I want to go after. But I write middle of the night. I mean, I'm talking about maybe 10 to 3 in the morning. Sometimes I'll get up at 4 if I have an idea, and I'll be writing from 5 to 7 or 8. When I'm writing a book, all weekends, so it's a labor of love, but it is a labor. And so, I'm not walking around the malls or playing this sport or that sport or attending events of any kind. I am just focused like a laser, and I cannot get it out of my head until I've written it. And then after I've written it, like now when I'm talking about the Liberty Amendments, I can't stop trying to persuade people, not that I'm a genius or that it's 100% my way or the highway, but to start thinking about these things. So this is what I do. Some people have other hobbies, some people have other interests. This is what I do.
Thank God you do. You're approaching H.L. Mencken status with just what you've put on paper, not to mention what you've spoken into the microphone. And, you tease me, Mark. You tease me with the few book signings you're doing, knowing good and well that my audience doesn't know how many times you've turned me down to come down here and do a book signing for us.
Well, listen, you're a great friend, and I can't get to all these places and at the same time do my show. I'm not very good at doing my radio show from a mobile site. I just am not very good at it, and I really think first things first, and the radio audience is my number one priority.
Our listeners are going to buy The Liberty Amendments, Restoring the American Republic by Mark Levin. But I want to ask you, as a man, if your Constitution, I imagine being like Ozzie Smith's glove, well worn and exactly where you want it, and tabs and drawings and words out to the side, and all these things like a marked up law school exam. But for people that have never studied the law, for people that may not have gone to college, but they now realize this Constitution is important. It was such foresight. It's so powerful, so beautiful. And they want to start reading. They want to start understanding. And maybe they've not heard your show yet, the Mark Levin Show. How do they get started reading and understanding a document that, frankly, is a little inaccessible at first?
This is going to sound like a setup question to the audience and a setup answer. It's not. The Liberty Amendments, I am focusing on parts of the Constitution that I think have been so severely abused and yet are so incredibly important. And I dig into these sections of the Constitution, the Commerce Clause, the Takings Clause, just giving examples, the powers of Congress, the 10th Amendment and federalism and things like that. If you read this book, it'll give you more than a good start. And if you go to the notes at the back, it'll show you original sources that people can have access to and just can have a blast if they're into it the way that I am. But this book is broken down in ways where I already prioritize what I think we need to do to restore our republic. And so I would recommend, you don't have to buy it. You can go to the library and get it too. They have it, and check it out because Meritopia does some of this, but it's a tougher book. It's political philosophy. Liberty and Tyranny does some of this, but it's a book about conservatism and non-conservatism. As you know, Men in Black gets into a little bit into the weeds with respect to the Supreme Court. But this book, the Liberty Amendments, this book will provide that, I think.
Mark Levin, the Liberty Amendments. Mark, thanks for what you do. Thanks for who you are. And thanks for being my friend and mentor. I appreciate you.
Listen to me, Mike. I love you, buddy. And you do a great job, and keep it up. Thank you.
Take care. And take care. I hate to sound like Sean Hannity, but take care of your health.
I'm working on it, baby.
All right, buddy.